and it was built by the monks 900 years ago. It's almost intact since that time. It was hit by a bolt of lightning in the 18th century, which fell into the building. They rebuilt it again. But this building has been virtually standing here intact since the monks built it. Why? Well, look where the doorway is. The doorway is over 3 metres above the ground. So this added to the structural security of this building. Some people think it was also for the security of the monks. And when we were young and in school, our teachers would tell us that this was where all the monks would hide from the Vikings. That the Vikings would come with their horned helmets, running after the monks. The monks would climb a ladder, run into the tower, pull the ladder in, and make all sorts of faces outside at the Vikings. And the Vikings would eventually go away. Well, it's a good story, but of course it's a silly story, because hiding in here was probably the worst place you could go to in the event of a raid. The Vikings could either build a ladder and chase in after you, they could light a nice big fire underneath the tower and smoke you out. They could just hang around until you got hungry and you had to get out. So this was actually the worst possible place to hide in this valley. And if you look over here, you have a much better option. A nice big mountain with a forest, with a bird's eye view down onto the settlement and protection. So we believe that this was not where the monks would go. They would hide up in the hills overlooking the monastery. But of course you never let the truth get in the way of a good story, do you? So that's why still today many people say this, but in my opinion it's rubbish. I don't agree. Now the main function of this building isn't half as exciting. It was a bell tower. It was used to call the monks to their prayers, their meals, their services and so on. And this was the primary function of this building. Monks didn't have wristwatches like we have today. They were out looking after their animals, their crops. They had to hear the bell to call them to their prayers and to their services. Only recently actually a bell has been discovered in a grave here, which may have been the original bell of this tower. We think it dates back to the 11th or 12th century, so this is quite exciting. Now this round tower had 6 floors. Each floor was linked with a wooden ladder. Unfortunately they don't survive today, okay, because they were built of wood, but it's still a very impressive building to look at from the outside. And I believe this was a symbolic building, symbolising a connection from the material world going up into the spiritual. That's why it has a very elegant and graceful design. And they're very Irish in their design. We have over 80 of these towers in Ireland. Now admittedly some of them are not very well preserved. This is one of the best preserved, but there are only 3 elsewhere. There are 2 in Scotland and 1 on the Isle of Man. And these 3 towers were built by Irish monks and travelled over there and brought the idea with them. So definitely very much the symbol of the early Irish monastery. Everyone happy with that? Date of the tower around about, again, early 1100s, early 12th century. You're talking 900 years old, okay? Right, let's go and have a look at the cathedral.